From the Homestead Studios in Santa Clarita, California, this is a Headache Soul production. Welcome to Just the Tip-Sters, America's favorite true crime podcast. I'm your host, Melissa Morgan, and with me today is my handsome and talented co-host, Joshua Appleseed Bevan.
Appleseeds?
Yeah.
Okay. Like Johnny Appleseed?
Yes.
Okay.
Because you're always going around spreading your seed everywhere.
Oh. In a completely platonic way. I'm sure. This is what this means.
That's why you have three sons. And yeah. Do you know there actually was a Johnny Appleseed?
I mean, yeah.
His name is John Chapman.
Yeah, that's...
And he's responsible for bringing apples to like Ohio, Virginia, different states.
Yeah, he totally walked around with apple seeds. Yeah, I like it.
Just like you, spreading your seed everywhere.
He spread his seed.
Yeah. Have you hit Ohio, Virginia, that area?
No. And So
you got more seeds to spread.
And yeah, no, I'm gonna go out. Now I'm thinking about it. I had a buddy whose wedding was out there.
And you got a kid who's like...
Oh, no. I got to look that girl up.
17, yeah, exactly.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, there's old Joshua Appleseed. Anyway, yeah, he was a really cool dude, except he was like apparently uber religious. He was like part of a, it's almost like Pennsylvania Dutch kind of thing.
Oh, okay.
Apparently originally from Sweden, maybe. Like
right.
Swedenborg is what, and both drawings I've seen of him were fascinating. He looks like he was extraordinarily tall.
Okay.
And thin and had long hair, like that kind of long Amish long hair,
right.
But he didn't have facial hair.
Okay.
Yeah, no facial hair. Weird, hat and little overalls. And both artist renderings, he had like I don't know if it was a Bible or a journal tucked in the front of his little overall pants.
Huh. Okay.
And like no shoes.
Well, I mean, very
much like you.
Yeah, that's.
It would be you, but you'd be wearing Vans.
No, I keep my shoes on.
Yeah, you'd be wearing Vans. Yeah,
yeah.
It's very interesting story.
I dig walking around barefoot, get connected with the earth.
Sure.
I can
before
see that.
Spreading your seed everywhere,
like during spreading, whatever.
You walk around spreading your seed. Yeah. Oh man,
listen,
I don't want to know anymore. Nothing else. I'm sorry I brought it up. So yeah, there you go.
All right.
I thought that was a pretty good name for you.
Right.
Yeah. When I read about him, I'm like, oh my God, that's Joshua with shoes on. If only he had shoes on.
And you don't want to read my journal.
I do not. I don't want to know. Oh, that's in your front of your pants?
Yeah.
Front of your overalls?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't. You're right, I don't.
Keep that log.
Yeah, I don't.
Yeah.
Okay, so a couple of updates here. I got a lovely review from Kat Dub that I've been trying to talk about for a month and keep forgetting, and I loved it. It's on Apple Podcasts. She said that I don't know it, but I'm her new BFF. Oh, I know it, Kat. She is binging episodes. She said she can't wait for the following week to catch up. And this is the part that I loved the most. She said, I'm so picky about podcasts. Voices, banter, humor, cases. It all has to be perfect. This pod hits every note flawlessly.
Oh, I love it.
Isn't that kind? I thought that was super kind. And speaking of kind, I have so much kindness to report this week. I can't even tell you, the tipsters are just phenomenally amazing to me right now. So we did the Murdertizer on Chad O'Melia's case, trying to get Bren Spetcher's charges moved back to murder. I think it was second-degree murder instead of involuntary manslaughter.
Right.
And I'll be damned if, I always forget other countries are, ahead of us.
Right.
So I released it. And then I get up on Sunday morning and Catherine in Australia said, I want you to know I sent an email to the DA in Ventura County and told him even in Australia, we are horrified by what happened in America.
Wow.
I know.
Wow.
She's spectacular, spectacular human being.
Amazing.
And I will have a copy of an email sent by a tipster who did not want her name mentioned, but she is also spectacular. And she sent an email quoting chapter and verse law.
Oh, okay.
It's incredibly
Good.
beautiful. Yeah.
Good.
She is in another state too from California. And I'm not, she said I shouldn't use her last name, but let's just say her first name begins with an S.
Okay.
And she's in another state, and she is magnificent. And the letter she wrote it's got really great. I asked for permission. I said, may I put it on social media and may I discuss it in an episode? And she said, you can. So I'm going to put it in the show notes, but I'm also going to put it for those of you who don't, follow us on social media, and you can follow us anywhere. Most anywhere, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. I'm going to put it in all of those places for you to look if you would like to take some of her information and use it as your own.
Oh, cool.
So I sent an email to the DA, and mine was sadly lacking compared to hers. Hers, phenomenal, just terrific. So the other beautiful portion of kindness is from Tipster Christina, who emailed me and actually called and left a message on the Tipster hotline too. And it is so lovely. She, reminds me, look, I've been a fan from day one. And she's right. We have communicated via email for a very long time. And this is such a lovely thing. She and I both have a love of, big, ridiculous dogs. And she has a couple of, and one of the reasons I love her, she has a couple of senior German Shepherds. She calls her assholes. And of course, I call Siren Marie Bitchface Morgan Humphreys an asshole. Poor Joshua, when he came in today, I was like, just hold
That's
me.
it.
My dog is awful, and I need someone to just hold me and tell me it's going to be okay. She's a lovely dog and a giant
so
pain in my
sweet.
ass, just a giant pain in my ass. So
She just loves so much.
sometimes it's too much.
Uh-huh.
I can't even believe I'm saying that. I didn't think there was such thing as too much love, but yeah. So Christina has these lovely German Shepherds, and she said, and I wish I could take credit for this, but she says, I want you to know you've been such an inspiration to me when you talk about search and rescue volunteers. So I started doing research. Since I already have these two wonderful German Shepherds and they're seniors, I wanted to dig a little deeper. I reached out to a local breeder, and I will have a pup in mid-October that comes from a magnificent line of working dogs who've done search and rescue.
Oh, rad.
She put me in touch with several locally renowned dog trainers, so this pup and I can volunteer to do search and rescue. My job provides so much time off, I can actually take advantage of that, and when needed, I can search for people in need. I can finally put some good back into the world, which is so sweet because Christina puts good back into the world just by being her. She has sent me lovely emails over the years, and this is just, again, I wish I could take credit for this, but this is her. This is her being amazing. I have perhaps complained and bitched a little bit. Not bitched. I have suggested if people want to get involved in their area, there's typically always a way. Maybe there aren't, a lot of people missing in your area, but if there ever are, they always need search and rescue people. Someone with a trained dog, that is like such a gift. And if anyone can do this, I know it's Christina, hilariously, while she was leaving the voicemail and just talking, her dog's like, I don't know if the bell rang or whatever, and she goes, and there's my asshole dogs. Okay. I was like, this girl has my heart, because it's like we live parallel lives on different sides of the country. So yeah, she, it's a lovely thing that Christina is doing this. And I'm not saying you have to go get a dog and be trained in search and rescue. I'm saying there are so many opportunities to help in any way you can. I mean, you can sit behind your computer and do research. And, I know there are so many infinite ways to help. And with that being said, I could not be more impressed with the Chesapeake, Virginia Police Department. I have never seen anything like this. Now, I don't know if it's a big department. I couldn't really find out a lot of information, but it doesn't even matter, because whoever is there is so involved and dedicated. I was looking for a different case, and I found their website. They have a cold case list. Like their oldest cold case is back to like maybe the mid 60s, like 1965.
Okay.
And they say and they ask for help for everyone.
Sure.
They say, we know cold cases can be solved, and we ask for your help
Nice.
if you know anything.
Cool.
They have a YouTube channel. They do 4 to 5 minute videos, updates on cases
Wow.
with, just like a police officer sitting behind his desk,
Oh,
lead
cool.
detective
Okay.
talking about it, intimately involved.
That's really cool.
It's amazing.
Wow.
It's amazing. They trust and ask for the public's help.
Yeah. Wow.
They ask for the public's help. You just have to know, coming from my perspective of, I am very blessed in that I have a pretty good relationship with law enforcement. And sometimes I was just explaining this to someone yesterday. Sometimes people who didn't really want to give me the time of day have turned out to be okay with me and are good to me and talk to me. And that happened this last week. And it's always nice when somehow you bring people around, and it's not like I'm not tap dancing or I don't do anything different, but something changes in them, or I hang around and I poke them long enough that they begin to trust me, that I'm not like an asshole or a
Sure.
dilettante or something, that I want to actually be of help. So that happened again this week, and it's actually a really nice connection I'll end up talking about later. We have such a beautiful group of listeners, an amazing medical examiner, doctor who works in another state, forensic anthropologist, and I hooked him up with a detective with a John Doe cold case, and they are connected.
Cool.
Yeah, sometimes those things just bring you a lot of joy. That we have these amazing listeners, and this detective who used to basically ignore me or tell me to go pound sand. Now, like, I text him, "Hey, I'm going to cover this," and within 2 minutes, my phone rings, and he goes, "I just thought I'd call you."
And he has a bunch of info for you. That's so cool.
Yeah. I mean, and we've had 3 conversations this week: emails, texts, and phone calls, and I was like, hey, I'm going to talk to this forensic anthropologist who's a listener, who's amazing because he is fascinated by the odd dental work in your John Doe. And he has some thoughts. And we talked for about 45 minutes. And I talked with the forensic anthropologist for about 45 minutes. And I was like, hey, why don't you two, because he asked for a few things I didn't have. And I'm like, why don't you two talk? And before the detective asked for his information, and I gave it to him. And then I was like, oh, I hope it's okay that I gave it to him. And he goes, yeah, I didn't have time. He called before you sent this. So,
oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Right. So they are connected, and he's okay with me sharing his information. Yeah. I know. I was like, you might want to block me. I know. And he goes, I didn't even have a chance to block you. He called me right away. So, and he was kidding. So yeah, that's a really nice thing. So an agency like Chesapeake, Virginia, and it's not just like they ask for help. It's not just that. It's like an enterprise. It's, here's our cases. Here's what we need.
Wow.
Do you know anything? Were you here? This is, and to me, I'm not very visual at all, but having a YouTube video with a detective explaining what he thinks happened, what the facts are, what, they know, what they think they know, and a clip from a parent or a friend, or it's so much more meaningful.
Yeah. Wow.
It's so much more meaningful.
That's incredible.
So I found this case looking for something else that we'll be talking about later, but this case I was like, wow. And so covered beautifully by the Chesapeake, Virginia Police Department, so beautifully said by this young man's mother, and we'll have a clip from her later, and a piece of legislation that I didn't even know happened that doesn't quite apply to Trevor's case, but is still really good to know. I don't know. I feel ignorant that I was unaware of this act in 2021, signed into law by Joseph Biden, but wow, wow, and double wow. The Homicide Victims Families Rights Act of 2021. There are avenues, there are places for people to go who have a loved one, a family member, a friend whose case has gone cold after so many years. There are places to go. So Trevor's case, Trevor Baldwin was a 20-year-old athlete. He, in high school played lacrosse. He was this, I'm going to say this, and it doesn't matter, but he was an absolutely beautiful kid. Absolutely beautiful boy. He had a fiance. His parents loved him, well loved by his friends. He wasn't, a ne'er-do-well. And I'm going to, say, if you see pictures of him, there's some pictures of him with a little bit of facial hair and he looks a little different, but he has this very big killer smile and beautiful eyes. But when he's wearing a beanie, he's got a dimple in his chin and he looks like, I'm so sorry. I feel dumb. That football player that was married to Giselle Bundchen.
I'm sorry.
Tom something?
Tom Brady?
Yes.
Okay.
He looks like Tom Brady.
Okay.
I couldn't remember his name. Sorry.
Gotcha.
Yeah. But, pretty. Okay. He was a very pretty boy. And when he has on a beanie, I'm like, is that Tom Brady? But no, it's Trevor Baldwin was his name. He had grown up in the Outer Banks of Virginia and had recently moved to Suffolk with his family. He was just like an all-around 20-year-old young, healthy kid. He was at some friend's house and they were playing kickball. He had, his mom, even though he's 20 years old, his mom said, be home by 10 p.m. Right. That's the kind of kid, he's not like out running the streets or, and it's what's so heartbreaking is that the news spread so quickly that his parents showed up at the scene.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And I'm going to also tell you, there's another case we're going to be covering from California in probably the next couple of weeks, maybe a month, and the same thing happened. So Trevor talked to his girlfriend at 9:06 and said they would talk, later. By 9:16, approximately 10 minutes later, so at 9:16, the police get a call of a single car accident of a car that ran into a tree at the corner of Tasman Court near Dunedin Drive in the city of Chesapeake. And it's, when you see the pictures, and there are pictures, he's driving like a large Buick. What it looks like is an old-fashioned like detective cop car.
All right.
It's like a tan, a big like 4-door Buick for a 20-year-old kid. It's very fascinating that's it. Maybe it was a hand-me-down or something from his parents. Yeah. I drove my grandmother's Monte Carlo for a while. Yeah. So yeah, I don't know how it caught wildfire, but so the police are called. It's a one car accident. It looks like the car had, was in gear when something happened.
Okay.
And one shot, apparently through a window, like so close. Now, Trevor's mother says the gun was in contact with his arm. I don't know that that's true, but so close, it went through his arm and into his chest.
Oh, through his arm and into his chest. Mm-hmm. Okay.
Which would make sense being close contact.
What part, like his upper arm or?
I'm guessing so.
Or, okay. Not blocking, not his forearm, like trying to block it.
No.
But,
yeah.
Through
like,
the upper arm.
Yeah.
Okay.
Through
the chest.
Yeah. Through the, I don't want to say bicep, but exactly, but probably, upper arm into the chest.
Jeez.
Right. And by the time police get there, he's gone.
Oh, wow.
One shot, I'm guessing the window was open. You can see in the pictures. They have him blocked out, but you can see the window was open. Yeah, it's September 30th of 2014. So it's probably nice, not cold weather, So, in this development, I guess, is called Western Branch, this part of town, part of Chesapeake. And from the pictures, it's like where I live or where you live or where probably many listeners live. It's like
just a neighborhood.
Yeah. Yeah, just like,
suburban town.
yeah,
Okay.
very suburban neighborhood, nice houses. The yards aren't huge. They're not small. Just, it just is, I don't want to speculate like what happened. There are things people have said that his family and even police are saying none of this is true. Like,
Hmm.
was this a drug pickup or something?
Oh.
There was him verbally mentioning to friends he was going to meet someone. I
Hmm.
don't know if this was like there was a beef,
Well.
but I can tell you more than one person close to him knows the name of who he was going to meet.
Oh. Okay.
So they've turned that name in.
All right.
Police have said odd things in my mind that up to 4 people were involved or know about it, and potentially 7 people.
Oh. Okay.
Right. Whether his friends and his mother and his girlfriend gave the police all the same name
Oh.
or a group of names,
Got it.
I don't know. But I can tell you, I mean, the case that we're going to talk about from California is very similar, but it has a different reason, is my guess, because it
Okay.
was one shot to the head of this person driving a car. They thought it was a single car. It was actually a Sprinter van. They thought it was a single. He drives off the road and hits a tree. It's very similar to Trevor's case,
Okay.
but Trevor wasn't driving a Sprinter van filled with pot.
Got it.
So, that's a very different thing. Trevor had spent some time with friends, talked to his girlfriend, was on his way home, and ends up shot once, 20-year-old with his whole life ahead of him,
Yeah.
shot once with his car run into a tree.
Jeez.
Exactly.
Is there a stop sign on that corner? Or is
That I
it
don't know.
okay?
To me, it looked like just like
Like a curve,
Mhm.
just a
Yeah.
okay.
When I say on the corner, I don't think it's an
not a
exact
corner.
corner.
I got it.
Yeah, it's like maybe, I don't know if you remember. Why would you drive around my neighborhood? But there's this weird several parts of this development where you're on one road and then you turn the corner and it's a different
And it's
road, and there's no stop sign. There's no,
got it.
you don't really know until you're like, oh, this is a different name street now. So I'm wondering if
Okay.
it's like that.
So the forensics looks like he stopped and someone was shot him at very close range,
Mhm.
like stuck their arm into the open window
Yep.
and shot and then walked away or
Yes.
whatever. Okay.
So here is where we're going to hear from Melinda Baldwin, Trevor's mom.
Okay.
Life will never be the same. It can't be. There's a piece missing. He's gone. He's not coming back. For someone just to take him and never be held responsible is just gut wrenching. And we hope every day, our life has to go on. We get up in the morning and our feet hit our floor, and we go to work, and we try to make the best of what we have. But there will never be a true, full, happy time. I don't believe that, not in the rest of my lifetime, because he's missing. So it's rough. It has been extremely rough. Certainly people do know things that they don't think that are important, but in my eyes, and I would suspect in the police's eyes as well, that every little detail is extremely important, because the one detail could lead to something else. And why people choose to stay silent, especially in their own neighborhood, that scares me. Uh, I realize the concept is, you don't want to tell on anyone, but this is a serious matter. My son is gone, and now here we are 6 years later. My hope is that someone will have a conscience and someone will want to make a difference, and maybe someone has left that community that has some information that now they feel like they can share.
Wow.
So that is from 2020, hearing Melinda Baldwin, 6 years after her son has murdered with no resolution, what she says. I mean, he has a fantastic family. His father, Dan, his mother, Melinda, his girlfriend. I mean, a lot of people were left behind to not only mourn him, but wonder, what the fuck?
Wow.
I can tell you, police have an interesting theory because of Trevor's age. The people that they say, between 4 and 7 people that know, could have moved out of the area, could have gone to college out of town. Their life may have changed, and they may want to put it behind them. But they're hoping that these people that know will have some sort of crisis of conscience and decide now's the time to talk.
Yeah.
I've really never seen a police department plead for help like this. Plead.
Wow.
Really get on their knees and beg for help. We know more than one person knows. We know there's a group of people that knows. Please come forward. We just need a little more information. And, Trevor's mom, Melinda, says the same thing that you hear all the time. You might think it's not a big deal. It could be a tiny piece of information, and you don't know that may be the thing that they need to put it all together.
That's the one little thing, yeah.
They sound like they have a large portion of it done.
Okay.
And they just need, a little more.
Right.
And the fact that they believe that there are, definitely more than one person who knows is so fascinating. And how can people sleep at night?
Yeah.
This isn't like some high level, El Chapo drug dealer.
Mhm.
This is a 20-year-old kid living his life, and how people could know something so vital. So this was a fascinating article that just came out in September of 2023, and it's kind of amazing. It's called "How to Solve a Cold Case."
Okay.
What victims' families need to know, and it's by Michael Ruiz. Now, this is pretty interesting. We will get to the part where there is a reward for any information on Trevor's case, but definitely DNA is king right now. There's different advances every day. There's so many things that can keep a case from going cold. There's, dogged police work. There's private investigators, and there's tireless families trying to understand and help in any way they can get justice. This is an amazing woman. Her name is Josephine Wenzel, and her daughter, Crystal Mitchell, was murdered in San Diego. Josephine was a retired homicide detective. She came out of retirement to help find her daughter's killer, who had started a new life in El Salvador.
Oh.
He was a Marine, former Marine in San Diego, and he and Crystal had a relationship. And Josephine is like, you don't kill my daughter, and you don't, not on my watch. And she fucking hunted him down.
Wow.
Gave the information to U.S. Marshals, and they arrested Raymond McLeod in El Salvador.
Wow.
Exactly a year after she had started her investigation to find him.
Jeez.
He was 38 years old, and he had killed Josephine's daughter, Crystal, in San Diego, and fled the country.
Wow.
And I can't even believe the marshals were like, we would never have caught him if it wasn't for you and what you're doing and everything you did to get the word out. Now, I will tell you, Josephine has a different mindset than a lot of people who have a murdered or missing family member. And I'll tell you why. Mark wasn't murdered, but Mark died. And people who have a missing or murdered family member have different ways of dealing with depression.
Sure.
I feel like Josephine must have put her depression on a back burner because and also maybe having the perspective of being a former homicide detective,
Mhm.
she doesn't allow for any, downtime. Maybe she does that in her private time,
Sure.
but she's like full steam ahead, Josephine.
Yeah. Wow.
She's like, there's lots of things that you can do to think outside the box and don't give up hope. These things are the key to cracking a cold case. You make as much noise as possible whenever, wherever. You do every interview. You can start town hall meetings, but also don't spend too much time blaming the police. It's very frustrating when your loved one's case isn't solved, but that doesn't really help anything. A good relationship with investigators, they're more likely to listen and be receptive to any leads that come from you.
Got it. Yeah.
And I get that. That's what I was, saying earlier about trying to contact law enforcement a few times and being shot down. And sometimes I stay shot down. Like Riverside County Sheriff's Department, that's just one. LAPD, never in a negative way. I'm just put in a system and it's circular and it's always going to be denied.
Right.
But people that I've actually contacted and spoken to, and they're like, yeah, no, go fuck yourself. And then I end up having to call them back and they're like, yeah, you can fuck yourself a little less. And then it's like, all right, maybe you can hold off being fucked for a while. And then maybe we can talk. And, yeah. I know I shouldn't probably put it in that way, should I?
Tone it back a little.
Yeah. Maybe just some heavy petting. Something like that. Second base.
Go second base.
Yeah,
yourself.
second base. Yeah. Which is almost like checking for cancer, like a mammogram.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, that's your second base. Go second base yourself. Yeah. So things change. People's opinions change. And it's so hard. I can't even imagine being a family member of someone whose case is unsolved or someone who's missing.
Yeah,
But, you get more with sugar than you do vinegar or whatever that old saying is. So, yeah. Josephine says other things that I don't like to hear. And she's right. She said it was really up to me and it's up to family to generate tips.
Sure.
It just kills me. It kills me, but you know what? She's fucking right. She said Raymond McLeod was the first suspect in history to enter the U.S. Marshals top 15 most wanted list with a bounty of $50,000.
Wow.
And she said that the reward money is only part of the equation. Someone knows something, says Josephine. And there are lots of ways to raise awareness for an unsolved death. And she's now actually working on another case in California, which is beautiful. She said, even if you put a $1 billion reward, if nobody knows that there's a reward out there, nobody's going to say anything. She's like, that's the key right there.
Sure.
And she's right. There's a book called The Cold Case Handbook written by a former NYPD sergeant. And he's a criminal justice professor at John Jay College of Criminal Justice. His name's Joseph Giacalone. And, he's like, the first thing you do, write a letter to the police chief to request a review. Go to the chief and not to the detective on the case because the detective may have a lot of other cases on their plate. Go to the chief. If it's not a police department that's handling the case, relatives can reach out to a county prosecutor's office.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we've done that here too. Request media to help with the case. And similar to what Josephine Wenzel says, get the word out, which is really what we try to do.
Yes,
and why
absolutely.
I don't understand why police don't want to talk to us sometimes. Joseph Giacalone says, lastly, there are cold case advocates that may be able to work on a family's behalf. Hi. We got our hands raised here. A good cold case advocate takes the pressure off the family and raises awareness about the case. One such advocate and former student of Gia Coloni's is Andrea Cipriano. She works for something called uncovered.com. Now, I have seen this website and they post a lot of cold cases. And I guess they're saying they're not being covered, uncovered. And I mean, I hate to say this too, but social media, man, everybody says use social media. Yeah. Using social media is incredibly important, not just TikTok, but Facebook groups. And that I truly believe. There's a lot of Facebook groups and people think Facebook is just for old people. Facebook, besides being like, your family reunion or your class reunion, really, those groups are really helpful. I mean, any kind of platform you can find that helps to get information out that, uses crowdsourced information. Sometimes people are more willing to put information on a social media group thread than talk to police.
Right.
And I get it. I totally get it. Somebody knows something, Josephine Wenzel says.
Absolutely.
I think after so many years, some people are more apt to come forward, especially if there's a reward. I mean, there is a $10,000 reward for Trevor Baldwin's case, and I'll give you the information on that later. Michael Ruiz did a lovely article on how to crack a cold case. The thing I found out that is so interesting to me about this act, this act of Congress, I didn't even know anything about it.
Oh, okay.
I feel ignorant that I didn't know about the Homicide Victims Families Rights Act of 2021. So it was the 3rd of January, 2021 that Joseph Biden signed it into law. In general, it says, Section 2. A, in general, the head of an agency shall review the case regarding a cold case murder upon written application by one designated person to determine if a full reinvestigation would result in either the identification of probative investigative leads or a likely perpetrator. What is so great about this is a family member, a loved one, can request a review.
Okay.
After 3 years of a case being considered cold. If it is unsolved after 3 years,
then they request somebody else in that same department to review it and say, "Hey,
no,
okay,
it has to be a different department, fresh eyes. Yeah,
okay.
That's a great question. That comes later.
Okay,
but yeah,
so a completely different department. Look at this and see if more investigation is going to actually reveal something.
Absolutely. I mean, this is not a long act, but the details I feel are very fascinating to me. I hope you can hang in here and listen for a minute or two. The review under subsection A shall include an analysis of what investigative steps or follow-up steps may have been missed in the initial investigation, an assessment of whether witnesses should be re-interviewed or interviewed, an examination of physical evidence to see if all appropriate forensic testing and analysis was performed in the first instance, or if additional testing might produce information relevant to the investigation, and an update of the case file using the most current investigative standards as of the date of the review to the extent that it would help develop probative leads.
Nice.
I mean, a review required under subsection A shall not be conducted by a person who previously investigated the murder at the time. The agency shall provide in writing to the applicant as soon as reasonably possible the confirmation of the agency's receipt of the application under subsection A and notice the applicant's rights under this act. Not later than 6 months after the receipt of the written application submitted pursuant to subsection A, the agency shall conclude its case file review and reach a conclusion about whether or not to assign a full reinvestigation. The agency shall conduct a full reinvestigation of the cold case murder at issue if the review of the case filed required by Section 2 concludes that a full reinvestigation would result in investigative leads. I mean, I hope that this will bring some sort of peace to family members, you know?
Yeah, wow.
So after 5 years, if a reinvestigation hasn't delivered any new information, then the process starts over again.
Another
Mhm.
agency looks at it and does another review.
Yep.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. I understand this part. I hate it, but I understand it. Nothing in this act shall require an agency to provide information that would endanger the safety of any person, unreasonably impede or ongoing the investigation, violate a court order, or violate legal obligations regarding privacy. And I think a lot of agencies get away with using that as a way to not.
Oh, okay.
So this is not.
That's why you
Yeah.
don't like it. All right.
Yeah, that's why I get slammed down is if it matters. Who cares about me? Family
Sure.
agencies. I mean, family members,
Right.
I feel. And I understand you can't say everything about a case because you don't want to endanger the case. I'll tell you an instance where I think it was helpful. And it was on camera, and it was the look on the family's face was somewhat shocking and yet incredible. For anyone following the Crystal Rogers case, it's an 8-year-old cold case. The only person of interest has been her boyfriend and the father of her youngest child, Eli. The man's name is Brooks Hawkes, and it's in Kentucky, in Bardstown, Kentucky. Not only was Crystal missing and her car dumped on the Bluegrass Parkway, about 18 months later, her father was assassinated while hunting.
Oh, geez.
Yeah. And this was spectacular. It took eight years to arrest Brooks, and the only way they arrested Brooks was going in the back way by a man who was arrested a few months before Brooks, who probably sang like a canary.
Oh, geez. Okay.
A 32-year-old man whose father worked for Brooks and who was arrested on conspiracy to commit murder and concealment of a body.
Wow.
So he's arrested in the murder or disappearance of Crystal Rogers. And then Brooks is arrested about, 6-8 weeks later. His first appearance in court last week via video. Crystal's family is sitting. And the DA says, we are also investigating the murder of Tommy Ballard. That's Crystal's father. We believe we have the gun that was used to kill him. And it was purchased online by an officer from Brooks Hawkes' brother, Nick, using a fake name. Wow. And you saw Crystal's family like, and then Sherry Ballard tucks her head down and starts quietly crying. They didn't know the DA was going to announce that.
Wow.
And he used it as a chess piece because Brooks Hawkes' bail bond is at $10 million, which is a lot in the state of Kentucky. Brooks Hawk is also a multimillionaire.
Okay, so he could raise that.
Right. His defense attorney says, I have never had a client whose bail has been 10 million. They asked that it be reduced to 500,000. I've never had a client whose bail has been $10 million. 1 million or 3 million has been the top in the state of Kentucky that I've been aware of. And the DA says, I've been practicing law for 25 years and I've never imposed a $10 million bail on someone, but he's the first multimillionaire I've ever prosecuted.
Wow.
And I was like, yes, sir.
That's it.
Yeah. So when he, laid out, and here's why $10 million seems a fair bail. He's also connected to this murder, and he could liquidate all of his assets and fucking move to, Mexico.
Roll. Yeah.
So this is where, this cold case Homicide Victims Families Rights Act, I get why you need to keep some things quiet.
Sure.
And I don't think the DA wanted to roll that out, but I think he needed something to prove to the judge. Here's why.
Right.
here's why I'm asking for what I'm asking.
Yeah.
So I feel like this beautiful act can maybe bring some peace to family members. I really do think it's
Cool.
important. And we know there's a $10,000 reward for any information on Trevor Baldwin's case. I will also tell you, if you want to look at videos of this cold case and others, I don't know that many people in the area of Virginia, but I'm telling you, Chesapeake, Virginia does it right. They just do it right. I've never seen an agency handle cold cases like this. I mean, it's remarkable what they do. It really, in my mind, it's remarkable. It's so open and transparent. And, look, we know what we're doing. Here's what we're doing. We can always use your help.
That's wow. That's just so cool.
It's unprecedented in my mind.
Yeah.
Sometimes you can, wear somebody down. There are definitely police agencies who have, good relationships with members of the press. I know that is helpful, but I've said it before and I'll say it forever. Once you put out a news story, unless somebody knows what they're looking for, that is gone in the wind.
Right.
Unless somebody has a subscription like I do to newspapers.com and can go back and look at old shit. It wouldn't, I don't know how many people have that.
Right.
A podcast is in the goddamn ethers forever.
Yeah, totally.
We've been doing this 5.5 years, and people hear something 2 and 3 years later.
Yeah.
And email us or call us and go, hey, I know about that.
By the way, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So I'm not saying everything has to be handled by a podcast, but I'm a big fan.
I kind of like them.
I'm a big fan of the podcast. So if you have any information on Trevor Baldwin's case, please contact the Chesapeake Crime Line at 1-888-562-5887. This is kind of funny. It's 1-888-LOCK-YOU-UP.
Lock you up. Oh my God.
1-888-562-5887. I really couldn't be, more delighted with what Chesapeake does. Again, I don't know how big the agency is, but holy cow, you lead by example, Chesapeake PD. You absolutely lead by example. If you have a tip on a missing person or unsolved homicide, or just want to suggest a case, please call us at 832-TIPSTER. That's 832-847-7837. Email us at jttipsters@gmail.com. You can find us on any of the social media platforms, just the Tipsters Facebook page, at JT Tipsters on Instagram, at JT Tipsters Pod on Twitter, and more cowbell.
If you would like to support this podcast and get early access and other cool murderous swag, go to patreon.com/justthetipsters.